On this episode of the special series that we're creating for the AIA Austin Homes Tour this October in Austin, Texas, I have the immense pleasure of talking to Patrick Ousey and Pam Chandler from FAB Architecture. Now, this is going to be a special one because they have very bravely designed a home together after years of practice together, and they live in it themselves. So it's their family home. And there's a really lovely story about it. So it's going to be great. Guys, welcome to Talk Design.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. As I said, I think maybe I've bumped into Pam before on the Homes Tour many years ago, but I don't think I've met you, Patrick. I'm a big fan of the Homes Tour, obviously, as are you guys. And you've had homes on the tour more than once. I want to dig into Post Oak because it is your own home. And first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about your practice, how long you've been in Austin, et cetera, and we'll go from there to then into designing a home together for yourselves.
Sure. We've been in Austin for quite some time, over 31 years. We went to the University of Texas, graduated in the late 1980s, mid to late 1980s, moved to Los Angeles, worked in Los Angeles for high-level design firms there, and made our way back to Texas once we started thinking we were going to start a family and be closer to our families here.
Yeah, right.
And we found ourselves in Austin.
Cool.
And after we had our second child, Pat thought that was a good time to start FAB.
Yeah. Working for firms here in town, it was like, okay, just after the second child was born, that's the time to break out on your own.
Yeah, when the risk is highest. When the risk is highest, right. Let's take a jump.
And I joined Pat a couple of years later.
You rescued him? Just a few years later, you rescued his practice.
He did. More than once.
I love that. It's a true story of often how it works, isn't it? You make that jump, and when you make that jump, it takes a little while to get some traction, and then the traction's one thing, the consistency's another thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And going from running your
and we've been at it now for 28 years, and working side by side every day.
Yeah.
Which
a few ups and downs.
Yeah, but that's a real testament to your partnership as well. That's, it's a beautiful thing that you can actually live together and work together and still embark on designing your own home together rather than just going, no, where we are, we're just down here. Like, it's not worth the effort.
We often say that our pillow talk is awfully sexy.
It must be. It must be. There's a lot of persuasion that must have to happen at the right time.
Exactly. So I know how to get my way on this one.
It's worked before, it'll work again. Oh, I love it. So tell me, there's a lovely story about Post Oak, which is about the neighborhood and your familiarity with that neighborhood. And I think that Austin's a fabulous city for pieces of community. Like it has wonderful neighborhoods, and especially in the established areas, there's walking neighborhoods. There's a real neighborhood vibe in that city, which you don't get in every city. And so the fact that you lived in that neighborhood and built again in the same neighborhood, but not on the same site. You didn't knock down your old house and build on that one. So take me on that little story so that people who come on the tour get a sense they could drive around the corner and see your old home.
Oh, they can see it from our house.
When we moved back to Los Angeles, from Los Angeles, we knew we wanted to take advantage of the ability to be in Central Austin. And we bought this bungalow in the Bolden Creek neighborhood, which now is on the doorstep of downtown. It's next to, on the south side of Town Lake, and downtown is on the other side of Town Lake. At the time that we bought the bungalow, downtown would look nothing like it looks now. There were warehouses on the other side of the river, and where there are parks now, just at the base of our neighborhood were gravel parking lots and aquatic center that was concrete block building, and just really nothing all that attractive. But we knew we were going to be in a central part of Austin. Got this little original bungalow, 1949. And when we had our second child, right before Pat started FAB, we added on to it. And that was just the beginning of several additions and modifications. And we ended up raising our boys on this site, and constantly always seemed to be a project, tweaking something, making something better, but always working with the original cottage and the existing additions. And when our boys were finally out of the house, we thought we would, during that time, we bought the property directly behind that property on Post Oak as a defensive move to keep someone from buying it that might build a developer house looking down on our property.
On your property.
Exactly.
Right.
Because they'd be looking into, they would have been looking into your backyard.
Exactly.
Right. And you lived in your backyard because that was the south facing side of your home.
Exactly.
Put a swimming pool in. We turned the single car garage into a little guest house and pool. Yeah, we loved that house. But
after designing homes for clients for many years and having a little house envy, it became apparent that fixing up that little bungalow, we were ready to move on and thought, let's consider building a new house.
Right.
And I had been out with a client to a property in a little further south, about 20 minutes away from here, and walked that site, loved it. That client ended up backing out of that site for reasons, and we loved it. Thought maybe we should build the new house there. And so we started designing a home on a 2-acre piece of property that backed up to a greenbelt, lovely trees. And Pam and I really struggled with what the right moves were, what the right moves would be. We wanted a place that we could age in place, that would be comfortable for our family. We entertain quite a bit. We are the family host locations where a family comes together, extended family. And the more we wrestled with that piece of property, and with time, we met our immediate neighbors, and we realized it was difficult, and we didn't really like those neighbors as much as we liked the neighbors we had. Yeah, we love our neighbors.
And I'll interject here. In the meantime, we've sold the house that we raised our children in, and we were living in the bungalow that was on Post Oak.
On Post Oak, because that was
up a little bit, make it a sweet place that we could hunker in and figure out this new design. And in comparison, we realized we loved our neighborhood still, and we loved our neighbors, and we loved the sensibility of the people that we lived around, and
15-20
to walk downtown.
15-20 minutes distance isn't a lot, but it's a world. And we live in a very walkable area. We can walk downtown, and we can get onto the hike and bike trail very easily. Out there, you're closer to big box stores than you are.
Oh, you're going to drive. You're going to drive.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
going to drive.
Yeah. And so it became apparent. And that, coupled with, I think Pam was reminding me that we came up with a very quick sketch, conceptual idea of how to address the Post Oak property and still achieve all the things that we wanted to achieve on that other property. And it was a concept that a compact footprint of a house that also made sense for us for our budget. It was a more affordable build, And yes, it was vertical, but thought, okay, we spend some money and put in an elevator. And if we ever need the elevator, we have it. So far, we've used the elevator to take drinks up to the roof, and that's important.
I was about to say, so do you use the elevator ever?
That, and sometimes when we have company who bring large luggage.
Yeah, of course. And that actually makes sense because it preserves the walls of your staircase.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it makes really good sense to do that. I know I designed a house here with an elevator over 3 levels, which it's like probably, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it certainly makes a difference. And the occupant, they said, oh, we'll never use it. I reckon the stairs are hardly scuffed. The elevator's getting plenty of use, trust me. And
no, we're going to keep climbing stairs.
Those stairs keep us young
from needing the elevator.
100%, yeah, 100%. And the other thing is, I know I've designed a couple of houses here where we've put in the provision for the elevator, but never fitted it off. So we've got this, and yours, I can't think what the sizing is, but in our sizing, it's 2 meters by 2 meters square, which has got one solid block wall or concrete cinder block wall or whatever to run the elevator up and down. But it's just a storeroom. Put a floor on each level, and it's just a storeroom. Yeah.
Pop it out when you need it.
If they ever need it, they can pop it out. Yeah. And there's the bit of a pit at the bottom and stuff. So you've got a 2-story house with a booze bar on the top floor on the roof, known as Post Oak. So you lord over the neighbors by looking down with your drinks, I'm picking.
It is a little sad that we did that, but it's a nicely designed house as opposed to a developer house.
It is. Look, I've seen the photos. It's a beautifully designed house. What I'm going to get you to do is put on drinks and I'll be there. No, what I reckon we should do is we should talk it through, because it's so familiar to you guys. You'll both have different kind of maybe experiences from it. I'd love you to talk it through from the experience of you've come on the homes tour. Now, you've been on the homes tour before where you've gone and visited other homes. Now, somewhere you park your car in that street, and then somewhere as you approach the house, somebody makes you take your shoes off and put some plastic bags over them or walk in your socks. There's moments of pause that you've designed into the home. There's vistas and things like that. Take me on a journey. So we've pulled up and we're about to come into the house. While you're doing it, but I don't want you to overspeak to the picture, I'm going to pull up a picture so that anybody who's watching this on YouTube can see Post Oak as the entry point. And the reason I love this, like I really love this entry point, is going to become very apparent when you guys tell us about it. So go for it.
So you're seeing maybe a third of the width of the property here. But this is the pedestrian entry. And what you can't see very well is there's a poured in place concrete wall that's running behind those ginkgos and where that bench is sitting up against. Basically defining the pedestrian entry. The other side is our carport. So it's where our cars park. Yeah. So we've defined this kind of.
So this is on the left as we're looking at the home. Yeah. And
correct.
So you're coming on the left on a cobbled path with a light graveled garden, but with like steel edged garden beds, and greeted by a flat roof. And as you say, a put in place concrete wall, and then you get to look into the gatehouse.
So you're brought in with this wall in front of you, and you meander over to the entry gate that
screens the entry from the courtyard. And there's the other thing you're not quite seeing there is there's a little passage to the right of the gate where the concrete wall that Pam and I come in from the parking the car. We can slide in there undercover, open the gate. You come in, you take a few steps in, and there's a couple of steps down, and so there's a terrain change, and so we're managing some of that terrain with this building. And you step down a couple of steps, and on the right is a very large north-facing porch that is open to the courtyard and the pool and views to the house beyond. And on the left is a little potting shed or that's what we call it. It has a little stainless steel workbench that we do our gardening at. If we're having a party, sometimes it's a place to serve drinks, and people, it's lovely. And then there's a few more steps down to the courtyard, which is uncovered, but there are four, now larger, but there are four oak trees that anchor the pathway and create open seating patio space and lead you into the main porch of the house and the front door. So the front door is a good 60 feet from the gate, and it starts to unveil itself, and it doesn't feel like a trek. We worried a bit, but it feels very comfortable.
And I'm going to back up, because I think a sign of great architecture is where you have functional elements that don't glare as functional elements. They still work.
They're integrated into the design so perfectly.
Integrated.
Yeah.
So this volume you're looking at here that has 912 on it is real. It really works hard. We actually have our trash enclosure that you go to the left. It's an alcove that holds all of our trash cans. And then, as Pat mentioned, there's the potting bench that has a rolling barn door that is louvered as well, like the gates. And it has a skylight in it so that we can house plants in it during the winter, and they still get light. But when you pass into that potting bench area, there's another door that leads to storage, because it's our only extra storage. So that volume there, even though it looks really innocuous from this photo, is working really hard without doing a bunch of
every square foot's got purpose. And you built on the south side, the north end of the lot, so that you would have a big south facing yard towards the street, and then you needed to create privacy, and that meant that you had a sun-filled front yard and pool, etc.
And meant that all of our available land, that all of these pieces sit at setbacks. We are sitting at our side yard setbacks, our front yard setbacks, and our rear yard setback. So we've congregated every available piece of land together in that courtyard, as opposed to, having a front yard and a backyard and
I think that's great use of space. And when you're coming on the tour and you're walking through this, reflect on the fact that this isn't about having a backyard. It's about having a front yard that operates with privacy and with the intent of a backyard and is sun-filled, and then allows the front of the home to be sun-filled as well. And
the other thing that's nice about it is that by pushing our volume of house to the back, our adjacent neighbors, their houses are garden walls to our courtyard, because there's a little bit of an offset. And when you step inside and move through our house, the majority of windows are facing either north or they're facing south. They're facing the courtyard. There are some windows that face west, but they tend to be high clear stories and not with views out to our neighbors, but views out to the trees that are adjacent to our property.
Which is beautiful.
And we're also, I feel, even though it's a modern home, I think the scale of the low slung entry pavilion is sympathetic to the original fabric of the neighborhood, that were all single story bungalows.
Lovely.
We're not looming over the street with our 2-story house.
Lording over the street with your margaritas on the top, on the roof. You're lording over your own front yard.
Right.
I think that the setup that you've done is probably not the norm for the street. And it really demonstrates to people how with the right thought and the right planning, you can make a lot. You've made the lot work just as hard as you've made the gatehouse work. You're getting the best of everything. And somewhere in there, normally I'd say, tell me the brief of the home, but you are describing the brief of the home as you went through that. The brief was as it was age and place, and you wanted to take in that southern sun, and you wanted to be able to take in the pool in the front. You needed to create privacy. You needed to create an entry point that worked for you with your garbage cans, etc. So there's a lot of those things that would have formed a brief that you would have discovered with a client. In this case, who led the charge out of the two of you when you were doing that? Or the pillow talk so good that there was no charge?
Yeah. Pat is a master at working up plans.
I love a good puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves and he loves putting a architectural plan together and then tearing the trace off and doing it again. What else? Yeah. What else can be done?
Okay, that's one possibility. What's the next? What's the next? What's the next? And then zeroing in on what is the best. And that's what, Pam and I, we work well together that way, that we trust our instincts, but we also trust each other's abilities to kind of champion what makes sense. And Pam's a beautiful sense of detailing. And so I can't exactly remember how this conversation goes. We talked about the carport structure and this porch and the front porch on the house side. And I think, it's like, and it could be a 2-story porch and it could have a sunscreen, a steel screen that helps shade that porch. And we could have nice glass, second floor to ceiling glass that is protected by that sunscreen, but also provides privacy from the street. And I think that we build off of each other.
It's pretty fluid, and honestly, often we forget who had the idea first. It really is that type of relationship.
They were all yours, Pam, I know.
Process. I just tell him.
But you just tell him, you just seed it, and then he comes up with it tomorrow. Yeah, the next day he comes up with it, and you just smile gently. Yes, dear. I think that's really lovely, like the fact that you, as you say, it's synergistic and you work to your strengths as well in doing it. Right. So once we've got to the front door, where are we going to lose our shoes in this journey? Are we going to get through the gatehouse?
I think we're going to lose the shoes inside the courtyard.
Yeah.
And probably on the house porch rather than on the entry porch.
Yeah. And in that journey between, as you said, you might have 60 feet or something of journey from one piece to the other. Is there any spots along that journey where you go, just get 20 steps in and then stop and look at this and you might notice this or anything like that on that journey? Because I know the thought that goes into the design. And there is usually little moments that, especially because you guys love your gardening, there's little moments that will be presenting that otherwise you might walk right past looking for where you're going instead of pausing and seeing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that people visiting our home for the first time, we greet them at the gate, they walk in, they take steps through the entry porch. And once they're in the courtyard, that's where they tend to stop. And it's, holy moly, they've never seen anything like this or have felt that it's not a typical sequencing entrance for especially an urban home. The courtyard houses where you have more sprawling land and that might happen. But this being an urban house, it is surprising for people. And that they tend to stop, take it in, and take a couple of more steps and stop again because I think it is just as
I'll unique. Tell you what I enjoy about the courtyard is there's 3 pool aside. You can be in the pool and that's an experience, but there's 3 distinct spaces. There's the pool, what we call the pool porch, which is the porch in the tree pavilion. That's long and low, and it's up against that concrete wall makes itself turns around and becomes the backdrop for the pool porch. long and low, and it's looking across at the main elevation of the house, but it has a totally different proportion. We furnished it with a long lounge sofa that exaggerates that length or works with it. And then there's on the path, symmetrical to the pool, there's an outdoor sitting alcove on the brick patio that's tucked into the trees and tucked up against a landscape along the property line. That's a whole nother experience where you're out under the sky and open in the air, trees and open air and looking on symmetry with the pool. And then there's the 2-story porch. It was completely different. Not until we moved in did I think about cliff dwellings and how there's low horizontal cliff dwellings, and then there's the 2-story ones that have different levels that they were tucked into. And it's dynamic in that way, the courtyard, I think, because it's not one experience. It's you've got all these different spaces to be in.
So that's really interesting, that piece of taking that step, also recognizing once you come through that gate how this is different. And you might find it, as you said, on larger property or maybe Palm Springs or somewhere like that, but it's in Austin. And then the use of that yard, and then identifying those 3 pieces, Pam. As you're walking through the space, take time to pause and just scope that out. Even though I know you're going to be looking for where you put your shoes and where you put your, like, all those pieces. And we're probably going to create a traffic jam on the path by having this. But I think this is the magic that happens. And we're only at the front door now. We've only got that far. So then tell me about the program for the house, how it was orientated and what you did inside.
So we took the approach that we wanted a very open and lofty kind of layout. And it's an open plan, but yet there's defined elements. The kitchen is more tucked away, but open to the living space. And there's a dining room, a dining area, sitting area, and living room that's all in a very large communal area that works when it's just Pam and I, but it works very well when there's multiple people in the house. But then there's also a special space that we're sitting in right now, which is actually a little sunken studio space that is open to the living room. The walnut cabinets that you see behind us are not full height, are not full height.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. And so they provide a separation between the living space and this studio space. There's 10-foot ceilings throughout, but down in the studio we have 14-foot ceilings. It's down 4 feet, and it's a little bit of a homage to a building that was here that we built as part of our. It's an homage to a previous studio that we had on the same site.
I had a big window that looked out, and in front of us right now is this very large window that goes all the way to that 14-foot ceiling and sits on our desktop. And just looks into trees that we planted along the fence line. It brings in north light that is always lovely, and look out to trees. But what I was going to elaborate on that Pat was talking about is it's this open plan, but there's these key elements that help define each space in a minimal way. The walnut cabinets, the living space center on the walnut cabinets, and this big window that we're sitting in front of. The round dining table sits in the middle with the pendant that hangs over it that simply defines that space. And then the little sitting area is defined by a glass bay that pops out from where the entry door is.
Gotcha.
And gets defined with the sofa sitting in that bay. Yeah, it's lofty, but it's not amorphous space. It's not just a big box that you can fill however you want. There's things put in place that hue way in which the space is being used.
I think, again, like knowing your orientation and the way to use the space, it's curated would be my best word for it. It's curated to get the best from the architecture, and the architecture is doing the best for the occupants that the site can allow, and engaging all the elements. So your kitchen, I'd love you to tell me about the kitchen, because it is this dark timber, and something that Casey said to me, because she's a big kitchen fan, she said to me, oh yeah, I could make him a few meals in that kitchen. That would be fun.
I am the cook in the family, and after designing many kitchens for clients for years, I've dreamed of having a kitchen that multiple people could be working in and helping and doing their job and not being on top of each other. And so there's a fair amount of square footage dedicated to this area, but it's all centered around that island. And that's a custom piece that Pam and I and worked with a local fabricator who works in steel and wood. And the beauty of the walnut is that it's double-sided, so it has the same drawers on the other side that you're not seeing. And the top has been laid up like a butcher block.
It's all solid walnut boards that have been laid up.
It's all been laid up, board on board, glued up, and it's a single board from the base of the other side up and over and down, making these drawer faces and then cutting out the pulls, basically the ability to pull.
Yeah, I like that.
Drawer. Yeah, it's this waterfall effect of the natural wood, and you see that grain moving up and over and down, and then bookend with the steel detailing for the area to sit on one end, and then the opposite end has cookbooks as a little bookshelf for our cookbook collection.
A nice little piece there. That's a thing. When you're visiting the home, go and have a look for the cookbook shelf, and the functionality of a cook's kitchen. Again, imagine, like Casey did. I can imagine myself cooking in there. That's a nice kitchen. And there's a lot of these elements that again thought out, curated, and then I love the simplicity of it, as well as the fact that it's got its functionality. Like it doesn't lose anything, and you can, as you said, have plenty of people around you, but they don't have to be under your feet while you're cooking. It's fabulous.
And it's open. People are sitting at the dining room table or in the living room, and if I'm in the kitchen working, I'm still part of the conversation, keeping it defined, but still keeping it open.
That connection.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense as well. Yeah, so that you're always connected, always got the connection. I love that. Tell me some other little secrets about the house, some little fun pieces.
What comes to mind, Adrian, that I feel like should be said is this house was designed with a pretty strict budget. I think I listened to one of your other podcasts and heard another architect say that designed their own home. We're architects, we're not our clients, so we don't have the majority of our clients' budgets. But what was great about that, sometimes it felt like a struggle, but it made us good editors. It made us think about what's really important here. It didn't keep us from spending money on things like the island, because we felt like that was going to do a lot for us, but it constrained us in other areas. We might have had wood floors on the ground floor, but instead we did concrete floors, and they're lovely. They feel like walking in sand. They have that sand color, which we found was a little lucky. You never know what color your slab's going to end up being.
Yes, but, exactly. Depends on the aggregate of the day and the cement. And,
So we had a good day that day.
The dog agrees.
I think so. There are some plaster walls that define some elements in space, and that was another choice. We really were looking for the simplicity of the space to be defined by materiality, and so we have some plaster walls and the walnut that is up throughout the house, and then that full tile wall at the back of the kitchen, which is the backdrop.
Yeah. I think this again is another lovely element, is look at how your spaces are defined. So when you're touring in the home, look at how the spaces are defined by the materiality of them and how that changes the mood and the feel and the function, not so much the function, but how you function in that room. It's those subtle cues that are subconscious as opposed to fully conscious views. And I love that. I've got, if we're upstairs in this house, you said before, no, we look over our old house out the back to the north, but you've got more to the south, the views that are over the courtyard and over the pool and towards the street. Now, you put an elevator in. Does it just go the 2 floors and then you have it got a roof garden as well? It does go all the way.
It goes all the way to the roof.
Elevator goes 3. Cool. So tell me about putting a roof garden up there and your whole plan, purpose, thinking, and how you're using it now.
So that's the latest thing we've put in. We actually put the finishing touches on in order to have a complete project, complete vision for this homes tour. It's, with Austin's heat, it's really a winter.
It's more of a winter place.
Or a night sky viewing after things cool down a little bit.
Cool. Yeah.
But we have a combination of turf on the roof, artificial, and some decking that defines our seating area on the roof. There's a little hint in that image, that exterior image from the front, that you see some potted olive trees that are there that help define that space, and some umbrellas to help shade. But that's where our seating is. We have a little fire pit. It's a pretty...
I just shared it.
Yeah, you don't see them there. I think we
took
the umbrellas down.
Yeah.
Exterior,
but you can see olive trees poking up just a little bit there.
Yeah.
But, and again, in the winter, the trees to the north lose their leaves, and that's really when we get to see more of a view of downtown. So we really do think of the roof as being our winter place, and the pool and the lower courtyard being our summer.
I love it. Yeah, beautiful. So on the tour, don't miss getting up there. It'll be too early for trees to have lost their foliage. We will be in October. Be early.
December.
Usually about a month or 2 later. But then they've got views to the north of downtown and then across the pool and down there. Again, getting this perspective of the home. Guys, it's a beautiful home and a testament to you and your relationship to be able to do such beautiful work together and create it for yourselves as well. Like, that's all pieces of that are like testament to a great practice and a great respect for architecture and each other. So I think it's fabulous.
We love what we do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a passion as much as it is a business. It's a passion to be able to create fantastic things for people. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to be on the tour and come and see that. Yes. And maybe we'll have to do a little bit of a neighborhood walk at some point. That would be really great.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Yeah, without a doubt.
We'd love that.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you then. You take care.
All right. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian. Safe travels.
We'll look forward to
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And thank you for your time. Really fantastic. This home, Post Oak, which was designed by FAB architect Patrick and Pam, and it is their own home as well, I believe.
It is. It's their own home.
Yes. Again, into another architect's home. So we've got a couple on the tour where it's the architect's homes. FAB architecture, been around a while, do beautiful work, done some. I feel like I've been in one of their homes before on a tour as well, because it's their own home.
Yes.
I think that's always filled with challenges of who gets what, and the fact that it's your laboratory to some degree as well, and you try things out. It's got a amazing entry to when
it
you
does.
come to the
I'll
street.
share that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a photo of that right now. Yeah, this house, I love them all. I can't say that I don't, but I love this house. And it's so they had lived on an adjacent lot for I don't know how long. They raised their children there. They've been in this neighborhood, basically right here, for years and years, and then are now building their house for this stage of their life and for what they're doing. They have grown kids, they have a grandchild on the way, and creating a space where everyone will gather. We're talking about this upcoming Thanksgiving. They're going to have 20 something people, and I just love that. And that is, it'll be interesting. I will look forward to listening to hear their interview with you on working together as a couple, building your own space, designing your own space. But it's also so lovely to like see what they have built for themselves after having all of that time and all of that knowledge and experience to put into it.
100%.
Yeah.
And another thing that speaks to Austin so much is this lot that they built on here is adjacent to a lot that they lived on for many years as well. And it speaks to Austin's neighborhoods and community.
Yes.
That people don't want to lose that. They're happy to move across the road. Most times when people move home, they do not move across the road. They're more likely to move to a whole new suburb or community. This is, again, a piece of Austin magic that I find this happens more often, not more often than not, but a lot. People say, oh, no, we love this space, this neighborhood. We just moved down the road, or we just moved one street back because we found another part of it that we've walked past for 20 years going to our coffee shop or to our grocery store. And we don't want to leave here. We just found another spot that would be exciting to do something else with for this next chapter of our lives. And it will be great. I haven't interviewed Pam and Patrick yet.
Yeah, I know. I look forward to that.
It'll be really good. And if you're listening to this and you haven't, we have this on YouTube so that you'll be able to tune into Talk Design on YouTube and you will be able to see the photos that Casey's sharing as we're talking about it. Go for it, Casey. This is the front entry.
Yeah, this entry. This is the front entry is the street. And what they've done is there's this, beyond this front gate, there's parking for them right here. But beyond this front gate is this like beautiful courtyard, entertaining, living space before you even get to the house. Yeah, and it's really, it's like the backyard's in the front yard, but creating this intimacy right there. And then the house is at the back of the lot. And so the entire front of the house can be all of this glass looking out there, but you still have privacy from what is a pretty busy street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'll show you an interior.
It's a mid-century modern genre of doing that. You come into a courtyard and come into an outdoor space, and then the house is adjacent to that, and the privacy that they've created is through screening and planting, and then the home is actually like another sanctuary beyond, which I think is really beautiful. Yeah. So you might never make it to the house. If you come to visit, you might just end up in the front in that.
You might just end up in the front.
Yeah, which is really lovely.
And so you can see
with this
here a little bit through this front window, into the courtyard space that is created there. But this house they have some really beautiful art, and they have things from travels all over the world. And they, again, having them and doing the design, there's a space and they're incorporated into everything so well. But it's really beautiful. It's very personal and has a story to tell.
Yeah. I think it's really special, the fact that their home, as I say, sits with this courtyard. So they get to experience that on the way to their home every day.
Yes.
So they really transition from parking the car transitioning through this outdoor courtyard space and then into their home, creating a transition of magic. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
again, architect's own home, so a very deliberate move. They could have chosen to do it any which way. So it'll be a really interesting conversation to understand why it became that way and why that was so important. Yeah. So when you're in this home and you've come through that courtyard, tell me about the experience of the emotions that you shift. You go through the entry, through the courtyard, and then you get into the home. And the home's obviously filled with a lot of light.
Yes.
And as you said,
Yes.
their travels and their collectibles from their travels, their art and stuff that they've brought back with them, which again is another thing of being able to make a chapter of your home, but with all your touch points.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it feels as though you still feel like you are in Austin, but the fact that you leave the street and you come through the gate, it's just, I feel like there's a little bit of an exhale that happens as you come in, and it feels removed in a positive way, maybe from the busyness of life. And this house is not far from the Zilker Park Long Center area. It's very close to the heart of Austin.
Yeah.
So it's in, a bustling part of town, but still has wonderful trees and, is a great neighborhood. But yeah, it feels serene, and it feels a little bit, you can see the neighbor's house is right there next to it, but it still feels set back. I feel like because of the courtyard and the entryway, and then the way the windows open up to that more than to the sides where the neighbors are right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's, if you had to have a favorite space, where can you imagine yourself in this home? Where's your spot? Or is it in the home, or is it in the courtyard?
It might be in that courtyard. There are a couple of just really lovely sitting areas, and we photographed the space at night. And I got to sit with Pat and Pam and just talking, waiting for the sun to go down. And it was a lovely place to sit on a summer evening. Yeah, I would do that again.
That would be your spot. That's awesome.
That would be my spot. Yeah. And I'm a sucker for a kitchen, and it has a really beautiful kitchen.
I saw that. I saw the photos of the kitchen.
That. Yeah. It has a really, a great kitchen that I could spend some time in.
Cooking up a storm.
Exactly.
The transition from the courtyard space to the kitchen, how did they manage that? Because obviously they feed people in that courtyard space as well. It's an outdoor area.
It is. It's very close. From the photo that we're looking at, this central dining table with a chandelier on top. The kitchen is just to the right. It just flows around. So it's all in here together. And then there's this large outdoor dining table. And they have a lot of family, and they want this to be a hub where people come together. And it's set up where it can be. They were saying this interior dining table expands. I can't remember how many people it can sit, but that expands, and they have the outdoor space, and then the kitchen is right there to your right. And so it all flows very well together.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's a very cool home, mate.
It is super cool. And I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
They were going to move out of town. And
really?
Yeah, they had built, I'm no spring chicken, but they're a little bit older, and we're going to move and build something all single level, and then just decided this is where they want to be. And they did the elevator and built it to be an aging place and a place they can stay. And it's
cool.
great.
That's really nice. Really nice. I do remember being in one of their homes. It was the first time I'd ever been in one of them, and they had this really cool, like, meat smoking oven kind of area on the outside as you off the back of the kitchen, because the guy was really into barbecuing. And so it was just really cool, the whole way it was set up.
Yeah.
If you said to me FAB architecture, that's the picture in my head, is that house. And I remember meeting them, and I remember the fact that the house came in and you went up in levels slightly, just, 3-4 stairs. And then, when you got to the kitchen, off from the side of the kitchen was this doors that opened up to the outside, and you had a whole meat smoking oven and stuff built in there. Yeah. And I can remember other things about the house, but that was the predominant piece that I just went, oh, yeah, I want one of them. I can imagine living with that, like how nice that would be. And it didn't remove whoever was cooking, that, because that's that long, slow cook. It didn't remove them way out of the house. It just meant that they were right there and could be in touch with it really easily. They didn't have to leave to be in that outside area. Yeah, it was clever.
That very much.
It was really clever. Okay, our last one, sundown residence.
A designer is only as good as the projects you can win, and life is far too short to be consistently winning mediocre projects. So if you want to get yourself out of the rat race and start winning high-value projects for high-value clients, that's people who appreciate great design, go to my website, archmarketing.org, and download some of the free tools and resources and start winning decent, high-value projects consistently. That's archmarketing.org, and help yourself to whatever you can find.